We welcome Four Shillings Short for our special opening music today.
Wow. Thank you. It was beautiful. Good morning and welcome. My name's Jeff White. I'm a member of the board of directors here, and I want to thank everybody for being here today and extend a special welcome to any visitors. And if you'd like more information about the fellowship, you can check with the table in the fireside room, or please visit the welcome table Visit our virtual guest book at uufames.org/guestbook. And whether you're joining us from home or here in Fellowship Hall, we invite you to stay after the service for coffee fellowship, where you can introduce yourself and join in conversation with kindred spirits. A few announcements. Submissions are now being taken for next year's offertory recipient roster. Submit your ideas online by November 1st, that's next Friday, at uufames.org/offertory-ideas. And you can find it, you just have to search for it a little bit. At this year's annual meeting, we'll be taking a look at how we do membership, specifically with a new membership policy and some bylaw updates. The task force will have Q&A sessions on Saturday, November 2nd, and Wednesday, November 6th. So see the latest weekly email for more specifics and plan to bring some questions to any of those meetings. Fellowship Voices rehearsals are back. And now with our music coordinator, Madison, at the helm. If you love to sing, be sure to check it out immediately following Sunday service every week. And it's okay to grab a cup of coffee first. This week's rehearsal is upstairs in Channing Barton, and next week they'll begin practicing right here in Fellowship Hall over by the piano. So today our children and youth are decorating pumpkins for UNICEF. I'm sure everybody's seen it out there. So check out their creations in the fireside room after the service and vote for your favorite with spare change and support a good cause. So on behalf of this caring and nurturing congregation, I welcome each and every one of you to this sacred space. Here we invite you to an experience of transformation, hope, renewal, and connections, which may inspire you to understand life in new ways. Thank you for joining us today.
Listen. Every day I see or hear something that more or less kills me with delight, that leaves me like a needle in the haystack of light. It's what I was born for, to look, to listen, to lose myself inside this soft word, to instruct myself over and over in joy and acclamation. Nor am I talking about the exceptional, the fearful, the dreadful, the very extravagant, but of the ordinary, the common, the very drab, the daily presentations. Oh, good scholar, I say to myself, how can you help but grow wise with such teachings as these, the untrimmable light of the world, the ocean's shine, the prayers that are made out of grass.
We light our chalice this morning with these words from Amy Brooks. Even as the days grow shorter and our homes shrink smaller and our wicks burn lower and our will to endure flickers, we light this chalice to kindle a flame of warmth as a reminder of the connection that draws us into a community that opens us up in gratitude for the breath in our lungs and the love in our hearts and the gift of this day alive. We have a musical team here today, so our time for all ages is musical. And I invite everyone to rise in body and spirit for a rousing, real version of This Little Light of Mine with all the verses. And young people, please stay until the fourth time we go through it before you send out to your pumpkin decoration. Little light of mine,
I'm gonna let it shine, this little light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Everywhere I go, everywhere I
go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
all around the world.
All around the world, I'm gonna let it shine. All around the world, I'm gonna let it shine. I'm gonna light the world. I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
This little light,
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Well, music. The art of listening, you know, we all love music. I don't think I know anybody who doesn't love music. Aog and I really love music. We love it to the point that it's our life. And for those of you who don't know who Four Shillings Short are, I'm Christy Martin from San Diego. This is Aog Otuama from Cork in Ireland, and Aog and I are full-time, authentic troubadours, bards. We have lived on the road for over 28 years, gave up paying rent after we met in 1995 and realized that our calling was really to live on the road and play music and gather the stories and to be a link between the past and the present, which is what the troubadours and the bards of old have done. And so we are modern day troubadours. One of our dear friends, she says, "You guys are two true troubadours." So, you know, from all the years of playing in pubs and whatnot, and also the experience of growing up in very deep spiritual traditions ourselves, we've branched out into playing a lot of Unitarian churches, writing music for the services, and then actually being the guest speakers. So we're really delighted to share with you some of what we understand about the art of deep listening and how music connects to that. So we'll begin with a reading from one of our favorite Irish poets, John O'Donoghue, his seminal book, Anam Cara. This is
Soul friend.
your soul friend. In fact, a little bit, I'll do the first reading and then I'll talk later about the Anam Cara. True listening is worship. With the sense of hearing, we listen to creation. One of the great thresholds in reality is the threshold between sound and silence. All good sounds have silence near them, behind them, within them. They bring us to that silence that is our very essence. The first sound that every human hears is the sound of the mother's heartbeat in the dark lake waters of the womb. This is the reason for our ancient resonance with the drum as a musical instrument. The sound of the drum brings us consolation because it brings us back to the time when we were at one with our mother's heartbeat. That was a time of complete belonging. No separation had yet opened. We were completely in unity with another person. There's a very important distinction to be made between listening and hearing. Sometimes we listen to things, but we never actually hear them. True listening brings us in touch, even with that which is unsaid or unsayable. Sometimes the most important thresholds of mystery are places of silence. To be genuinely spiritual is to have great respect for the possibilities and the presence of silence. Heidegger says that true listening is worship.
We will now give and receive our offering. Please know that this morning, half of the non-pledge offering will be donated to the Iowa Abortion Access Fund. This independent fund, the only one serving all of the state of Iowa, provides financial assistance for abortion services for Iowans who lack the resources to pay for an abortion or who now may be required to travel out of state to access care. The other half of the offering will support programs here in our fellowship that make this a community of inspiration, transformation, and belonging. We'll pass the basket here in Fellowship Hall, but alternately, for those at home or here with a cell phone, you can go to our website to make a contribution today. And if you are visiting with us today, please know your presence here is gift enough.
Christie's first instrument was the sitar from India. She started playing it when she was 15. So to bring home the special music a little further, we're going to do a second piece, just because we're mic hogs or something.
Thanks. This piece is actually based on the book, Anam Cara, and something about the Anam Cara from John O'Donoghue's own words. The Celtic understanding of friendship finds its inspiration and culmination in the sublime notion of the Anam Cara. Anam is the Gaelic word for soul, Cara, the word for friend. So Anam Cara literally means soul friend. The Anam Cara is the person who you can reveal your most innermost self to. It can be your very self. It can be your concept of the whole, of God. It can be your deepest friend, your partner. When we listen from that place of our soul, we really connect with each other. And so this is a little bit about our journey.
Setting by Kate McLeod from Salt Lake City. Coupled with an air from Ireland called The Women of Ireland, or Mamona Hating.
In searching the infinity of our interiority, a wholesome complexity is found in satisfying our hungry transparency. Imagination befriends our unbound in nurturing the honesty of our neglected beauty. Icons and imagery unfold, and though you can't go back, you clutch confessions of a traveler while watching from the edges of your soul. While harvesting our abandonment, the tenderness that sorrow lent transfigures into whim. If once we were taught to embrace the generous light from space, why do we struggle now with within? Our invisible and exiled reach up for belonging and guide us to a place of furthermore. Our hidden self will linger in presence as the texture of the soul in the innocence of dawn. ask what is behind the far. Why, what is it you're waiting for? Why look for love when it is yours? Beyond the inner fences and the landscape of our senses, the soul knows the way for the ongoing process of the heart that grows, supported by the secret gathering of days. For the love of the anam and the heart that grows. So we're going to do this talk about deep listening in a couple of parts. I'm going to have a little meditation in between with music. So music and the art of deep listening. One of the greatest needs that we have is to be listened to. We're all born needing to be heard. From infancy and throughout our lives, we communicate and respond with our environment through vocalization, words, poetry, music, and other forms of art and expression. The child coos when it's content, giggles when something delights, cries when hungry, needing attention, comfort, or security. As we grow and learn language, we then articulate more specifically what we need. All the while, those around us and how they respond make us either feel listened to, heard, or unheard. When we feel heard, we conclude we are valued, understood, listened to. It feels great when somebody really hears you. When we feel unheard, well, we conclude that we don't matter. We feel neglected, frustrated, unimportant, and not listened to at all. Being heard and understood creates a healthy sense of self-trust, validation that we matter, and that what we think and say and do is of importance. And from this validation comes so much: our self-confidence, the courage and the inner strength to express ourselves and take more risks, to go deeper into our feelings, to strengthen our relationships with each other, and most importantly, with our own inner self.
Reasons for feeling unheard. The reasons for feeling unheard and not listened to are numerous. Sometimes the person speaking is clumsy with language and isn't able to communicate in a way that is easily understood. There might be language and cultural differences. The person listening may not be able to respond in ways that make us feel validated and understood. They may not know how to respond to our needs. They may be incapable of expressing themselves that way. They may not have the communication tools that are needed to be a good listener. They indeed may have their own issues or wounds that prevent them from being available or even able to listen to you. They might be preoccupied or impatient. We've all been there. Impatient with hearing people and really getting what they're saying. Biased, overwhelmed, or just not interested at all. Yeah, many of us have encountered people that we don't want to be listening to. They may react to what we say and respond with judgment or fear. They may go into problem-solving mode and offer advice to fix us. Yes, we've all been fixed from time to time.
Or attempted.
As the saying goes, just because you have ears doesn't mean you know how to use them. When I was studying music in secondary school in Ireland, one of the lessons we had focused on learning how to listen and enjoy a piece of music. It was a skill that required effort and time to develop. Some of the things we were instructed to do were quiet the mind, listen and follow the structure of the composition, which sounds very easy but is not, as Madison there knows. Interpret what feelings the music invokes. Now that's very subjective. Learn to articulate and write down how the music composition flowed, developed, changed, and to find the words to describe the emotions that the music inspired.
So with that in mind, we're going to play a very relaxing piece of music that's just kind of free-flowing to give you a chance to just do that very thing. So give yourself a chance to be in that place of deep listening. Close your eyes. Get your body comfortable. Clear your thoughts. Clear your mind. And focus your attention on your music. On the music and breathing deeply. Listening There are different ways of listening. Active listening is a communication skill that I learned in college. When I was in college in Santa Barbara, I volunteered to be a part of the crisis hotline. I was about 22, and we were instructed by a couple of counselors on how to actually to pick up the hotline. Sometimes there were just people who needed to talk. There were a couple of times we had suicides that we needed to learn how to interface with mental health professionals and the police. But one of the things that was so important in this instruction was the art of active listening. Active listening techniques include being fully present in the conversation. In other words, put your cell phone down, I mean, how do we, when someone's talking, especially if you want to hear what they're saying, if you're distracted, the other person, number one, is also going to be distracted. So eye contact is really important. If you feel like someone's not quite there, completely ready to listen to you, you may even say, hey, until you're ready, I'm not gonna say what I need to say. But that's a really important part of active listening, is being available, not being distracted. The second thing we learned in active listening was about, because we were talking on the phone, we didn't see the person. We had to really listen very carefully to the tone of their voice, to the cadence of their voice, not just the words, but how the feelings come across in a person's voice. A lot of communication's nonverbal. And if you're able to actually be there with the other person, you're recognizing maybe some body language, some facial characteristics. You can read so much from a person's face, that unspoken, unsaid side of actively listening. We also learned about how when you listen, how do you gain more information is through open questions. Like, tell me more about that. And, how did you feel when that happened? If somebody's talking about something that is really sad, how does that make you feel? These kind of open-ended questions continue to open up the other person and create this active process of being a listener. Another step that I thought was really interesting was paraphrasing what you hear, because sometimes you might hear one thing, but the other person actually is not saying that. Again, that language barrier and how people express themselves, it depends on who you are. Everything is so unique and individual to the person. And so being able to say, I hear you say that you're feeling really frustrated. Well, actually, no, I'm very angry, in fact. So it really helps to clarify and make the conversation deeper. Listening to understand rather than listening to respond. Oftentimes we do go into, especially if you're a parent or, a dear friend or a spouse, maybe you're just like, I know how to fix this. I've got the greatest advice in the world. And you're formulating already your response before you've even heard what the person is saying. That's a real difficult thing to stop yourself from doing. But in fact, if you want to be an active listener, you got to rein in that tendency to respond rather than to understand. So trying to avoid the temptation to interrupt. We've all been there. You're in the middle of something and all of a sudden the person you're talking to is so excited to tell you what they think that they just cut you off altogether. And how does that feel? Well, it shuts you down. You feel unheard, and you might just decide, well, they're obviously not the person that I should tell this to.
As my niece in Ireland said, rude.
Rude, yeah, rude. So it was interesting, when I took this class, I was like, I'm 22 years old and I don't know how to listen? You know, it was a revelation to me that this is a skill. It is a serious skill that we all have to work at. Another part that we learned was listening to where our own biases and judgments are. If you're listening to somebody and they touch off a button or some kind of trigger in your own experience, it's important to acknowledge that, of course, but at the same time, what is your purpose in this? Are you there to listen and support, or are you there to share and respond about your own experience? That may be very important, actually, in the sharing, but it's tough to really hold back, because how we respond reveals a great deal about the quality of our listening and how it's going to make the other person feel. And you put yourself in the same position. What do we want when we're sharing something with someone else? Do we want them to really fully listen and understand? Of course, that's what we want. So being mindful of our own biases and judgments and laying them aside. It's a real discipline. And not offering advice unless you are asked. That's a hard one. That's a real hard one. So that's a little bit about active listening. In an ideal world, we would all be active listeners. But it is something that does require some serious concentration and dedication to the act and the art of listening.
And some people will just turn on their own tape that they've been hearing all their lives and they've formulated all their lives, and in response to somebody, what has been said by somebody. And that's not active turning on that tape, because that's your own prejudices. So while active listening focuses on attentively hearing and understanding the words of a speaker, deep listening goes beyond that to grasp the deeper meanings, emotions, and unspoken message aspects of a message, their underlying feelings and context, not just the surface words. When I was at secondary school again, I was part of the debating team in Irish and in English, and you were given a subject 20 minutes, 15 minutes before you debated another team from another school or whatever. Has that gone out of schools totally, the idea of debating? Well, but you were given a subject and you were given your pro or con, and you had to formulate in that time arguments, marshalling arguments for one side or another. And then when somebody debated, you had to listen to what that person was and counter it in an intelligent way. So it meant you had to really deep listen to what was being said by the opponent in the debating class. So it all comes down to intent. It's one thing to be fully present to the other person. It's another thing to go the extra mile and seek to understand them truly. Deep listening springs from a desire to better understand a person or situation and authentically connect with them. When we listen deeply, we do so without judgment or preconceived ideas. We're open to surprise and new insights. We view the conversation as a journey of discovery. To do this, we must be like an empty vessel ready to receive. The more deeply we give ourselves as listeners, the more deeply the other person will be willing to share and connect with us. It's that place of greater connection and vulnerability that leads not only to the feeling of being heard, but of being truly understood. Deep listening can help you build trust and goodwill, learn new ideas and perspectives, make it safe for people to open up and gain accurate information.
We live in a time where it's really hard to listen to people. The political environment we live in has created more than just a political divide. It has created an emotional divide. How do we heal this? How do we go forward? How do we, as Unitarians, who have so much to give to our neighbors, to people we don't even know every day, how do we take the skills and the love and the depth that we develop in this congregation and in our own spiritual work and really help to create something that makes a difference in the world every day? How do we do that? How does this deep listening, how is this a part of that? It's a huge part of it, I think. Because everyone out there, regardless of what their political ideas are, they all need to feel listened to. They all need to feel heard. They all need to feel that who they are matters. And I think that that is, in some ways, really at the bottom of why this division has happened. We live in a country that is so diverse, and it continues to become more and more and more diverse as we actually learn to open up to each other. It's a beautiful thing. I mean, you think about where things were in this country and in the world 80 years ago, 100 years ago, how so many people, women, people of color, people of diversity were not accepted, were under the carpet, were in the closet, had to hide because they weren't accepted. We've come out of that in a big way, and that is something to rejoice in. But how do we further that? How do we further our commonality? How do we further understanding each other? Is reaching out with that deep desire to listen and to understand. Maybe that's part of what we can do besides voting. You know, I mean, voting's important, absolutely. But we got to take it further than that. Beyond the election, we have to do something to bring this country back to a wholeness where people are decent and kind and civil to each other and don't think of each other as others, but as we, the people. And part of that requires that we do a lot of self-care in terms of our own deep listening. At the heart of deep listening is mindful self-awareness and self-presence. Our lives are so busy, and I know everybody has a plate that is full. Even if you're retired, it actually gets worse. I'm telling you, you know. And so we have to make the effort. I mean, we do have to realize that to be able to be available to others, we've got to be available to ourselves. We've got to nurture ourselves in a way that we listen and we get in touch with that deep, whole, strong foundation that is our very essence. And to make the time as often as possible. It doesn't take sitting at your meditation for 30 minutes or an hour. It takes 5 minutes to just connect, to be in that place of wholeness that is the very essence of who we are. And to just take a deep breath and be in that strength. And from there, we're more likely to be able to listen deeply and openly. When we tune into our own thoughts and feelings, register them, acknowledge them, and then open up again. You know, it's kind of like this is something like a flower we have to do every day, sometimes many, many times a day, is to go back to that reservoir of depth, of wholeness, completeness, and then go back into the world and share it. Be the light. Self-awareness is a way not only of listening to ourselves, but having compassion for ourselves and feeling comfortable and at home where we are. And when we make the time to be present and give ourselves that gift of acceptance, forgiveness, healing, letting go of the past in order to come to a place of inner belonging. We can do it in so many ways, you know, meditation, journaling, writing, poetry, music, art, dance, prayer, deep breathing. And when we do that, take that time to be with ourselves in a place of deep listening, then we're right there with others when they need us to listen deeply to them. So that's our little talk. The Christine Aog Show. You know.
I don't think I made too many bad jokes.
Every time we do this, we find, you know, our own inspiration for music and life comes through what we do. So we're going to do our closing song, which is a lovely song written by Pat Humphreys. She's a dear friend of ours. She and Sandy O have a group called Emma's Revolution. If you ever get a chance to see them, they're fantastic. They've been here. You know them. So this is one of our favorite songs of theirs called Swimming to the Other Side. So we'll start and teach you the chorus. We are living neath the great Big Dipper. We are washed by the very same rain. We are swimming in the stream together, some in power and some in pain. We can worship this ground we walk on, cherishing the beings that we live beside. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side. Let's do that again. We are living neath the great Big Dipper. We are washed by the very same rain. We are swimming in the stream together, some in power and some in pain. We can worship this ground we walk on, cherishing the feelings that we live beside. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side. I am alone and I am my senses open. Imperfection, it be my crime. In humanity, I will listen. We're all swimming to the other side.
We are living beneath the great big dipper. We are washed by the very same rain.
We are swimming in the stream together, some in power and some in pain. We can worship this ground we walk on, cherishing the beings that we live beside. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side. On this journey through thoughts and feelings, imperfection, my head, my heart, I am gathering the tools together. I'm preparing to do my part. All of those who have come before me band together to be my guide, loving lessons that I will follow. We're all swimming to the other side. We are living beneath the great big dipper. We are washed by the very same rain. We are swimming in the stream together, some in power and some in pain. We can worship this ground we walk on, cherishing the beings that we live beside. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side. When we get there, we'll discover all of the gifts we've been given to share have been with us since life's beginning, and we never noticed that they were there. We can balance at the brink of wisdom, never recognizing that we've arrived. Loving spirits will live together. We're all swimming to the other side. We are living beneath the great big dipper. We are washed by the very same rain. We are swimming in the stream together, some in power and some in pain. We can worship this ground we walk on, cherishing the beings that we live beside. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side.
I suppose we have to do something else. Except where is it gone?
Closing word.
It's buried. It's buried. It's disappeared. Oh no, where's my swimming to the other side? There.
Oh, you put it right there. Yeah. There you go.
There we go.
Oh, we found it. There you go, pet. Take your time. Take a deep breath now.
This is.
We're not in a hurry there now, love.
Oh, we're not. Oh, well, we're past the witching hour. Okay, so this is John O'Donoghue had a beautiful collection of blessings for every occasion, for marriage, for childbirth, for a new job, for everything. And this was for beauty by John O'Donoghue. From To Bless the Space Between Us. As stillness and stone to silence is wed, may solitude foster your truth in word. As a river flows in ideal sequence, may your soul reveal where time is presence. As the moon absolves the dark of distance, may your style of thought bridge the difference. May as the breath of light awakens color, may the dawn anoint your eyes with wonder. As spring rain softens the earth with surprise, may your winter places be kissed by light. As the ocean dreams to the joy of dance, may the grace of change bring you elegance. As clay anchors a tree in light and wind, may your outer life grow from peace within. As twilight pervades the belief of night, may beauty sleep lightly within your heart.